So I'm Dave Miller. I'm the Director of Business Development for Future Networking. Future Networking is a company that's been doing business in networks for over 20 years. We have a cybersecurity focus. That focus is primarily just to provide holistic solutions to our clients. As a full stack cybersecurity company, we also provide the broad range of IT services. We're involved in a number of different arenas. Bruce mentioned, of course, the defense manufacturing arena and healthcare arena, but there's others as well. So we have broad ranging experience. So let's talk about cybersecurity. Why are we here? And what is the big deal? Well, the National Security Agency director said, and this was a couple years ago, that cybercrime is the greatest transfer of wealth in history. And increasingly, ransomware is the type of cyber threat that is taking money or severely damaging businesses, and so much so that the FBI has specific recommendations on it. Prevention is the main part of that, but having technical controls, which are software and other types of operational controls to support the defense against ransomware. So just as following on with some statistics here, and I don't know how much people have really looked at the web. It's something we do every day, but the surface web is pretty much what we understand. It's, you know, Yahoo, Google, YouTube, and that makes up sort of the public view of what the internet is. Then there's what is called the deep web, and that is more or less the, you know, where you have to use a password to get into it. And a lot of different databases for scientific use, academic use, you know, company, a lot of company information is in the deep web. But then lower is the dark web. And the dark web is where all the terrible things happen. I talk about it being like swimming in the cesspool of the internet. And from there, that's where all the stolen credentials are sold. So you hear about data breaches and whatnot. Those credentials are sold down in the dark web and used for the surface web or the deep web to take information. And it's all a timeliness sort of issue. It's all about how quick, because things change in the surface. So it's about how quickly the criminals get the information and use them against you. And that's, you know, again, the dark net, the dark web. Now we're talking about ransomware. You can see how ransomware in 2015 was a paltry 325 million. And it's projected to be $20 billion of ransomware damage by the end of 2021. One can estimate somewhere in between, say, 15 billion or so by the end of 2020. That's a significant amount of money.
Dave,
and, yes.
Can I just stop and just ask you just to kind of define what ransomware is? That to me, that was a relatively new term I hadn't really paid attention to until we started talking about this, and maybe others are in the same boat as I was.
Absolutely. Well, I will address that right there. Ransomware.
Okay, perfect.
What is ransomware?
Step ahead of you, sorry.
Yeah, oh, we're in sync here. So how cool is that? But yeah, ransomware is, well, let's start with the screen, okay? If anybody sees this screen in their business computer or their home computer, you're in trouble. Now, there's different levels of this. So, but if you're in I'd say a small to mid-sized business and this sort of screen pops up, imagine going to work and having no access to any of the data or any of the operations of your computer system at all. It's completely locked up. You turn it on, you get this screen. You turn it off, You turn it back on, you get this screen. Anything you do, that's all you get. You can't access your financial records, you can't access your sales information, you can't access your data, nothing. It's as if you completely had all of your computer equipment taken out of your operation. You're left with nothing. And then the criminals say, hey, we'll give this back to you if you pay us X amount. That's ransomware. So does that answer your question, Corey?
Yes, thank you.
Cool. Okay. So now what a lot of folks think is that ransomware in the public eye, they only hear about the big guys getting ransomed. Now, municipalities are the ones that pretty much have to disclose what's going on. And in 2018 and 2019, these have all been in the news. Atlanta, Georgia, the city paid a $50,000 ransom, but the recovery costs, and this is where it's really damaging, was approximately $2,700,000. So when it comes to recovery, that's really the challenge. If your data is locked up and you have a terabyte of information, it takes days to stream and recover that information, if not weeks. So the companies, the municipalities in this case, actually it takes them a long time to reconstruct what was locked up, even if everything goes smoothly. So Baltimore, Maryland, they paid nothing, but it took them $6 million to reconstruct their network and their data. New Bedford, Mass, they paid $400,000 and their recovery costs are undisclosed. Pensacola, they didn't release how much they paid. And there was an article that had that they did pay $140,000 in a consulting fee after the attack. So it's not only municipalities though. Municipalities are more in the public eye because they are public and they have to disclose. But it's also large corporations. Evraz Steel, just here in Portland, Oregon, they paid an undisclosed ransom and they have an undisclosed recovery cost. But please note that it was extreme what they went through. I actually was there speaking with someone, although we did not provide a service to them. DMAT Denmark, they make own a variety of different hearing aid companies. They paid an undisclosed ransom and their estimated recovery cost was $80 million. Norsk Hydro in Norway, they paid an undisclosed ransom amount and their estimated recovery cost was $60 million. So these large organizations are paying a lot of money, even though they're all disclosed. The statistics for how much ransom is has gone up from way back in 2015 from some tens of thousands of dollars to the last quarter of 2019. It was $190,000 was the average ransomware attack payment. So now only for the big guys, right? Well, wrong. Here in the Northwest, from 2018 to 2020, in the municipality school districts, these are the organizations that have been hit with ransomware. Moses Lake School District, Sammamish, North Shore, Yarrow Point, Tillamook, North Bend, Roseburg. You notice these are being paid. North Shore has an undisclosed result. Brownsville, Salem. Now I understand that their thwarted attack was only for a ransom of like $250 or very small amount. So it was very isolated. Nampa and Ada County, all paying ransom, not all, but most of them paying ransoms. And this is a considerable burden to the taxpayers, not only in the ransom paid, but again in the recovery costs. Now, what about small businesses? Now, small businesses, we do work with companies and have worked with companies that have been ransomed previous to us providing a service. And as you can understand, it's very sensitive. So I'll speak to this in third party, but I'll just say that some of these we know firsthand, but not all of them. A 300 employee telemarketing firm, and these are all US companies, they paid their ransom, but they botched their recovery. Their employees were laid off and the business has yet to recover. A 10-doctor medical office, along with their support staff, they did not pay their ransom, but they decided to close shop because without the data and with the risk as far as the healthcare information and whatnot, they couldn't open. A 40-employee medical device manufacturer, they had a social engineering attack with their top-level executive, where one of their accounting people were contacted asking for money, and because that form of contact was so convincing, they paid the money to another bank account. 10-employee manufacturer distributor, they did not pay their ransom and they went out of business. And then a large cargo transfer facility, undisclosed results, but it ended up that they were shut for over 30 hours after a control system attack. And when I say large cargo transfer facility, imagine an organization that runs literally hundreds of containers and trucks on an hourly basis, and imagine what sort of financial damage that does to an organization if it's shut for over a day. So this is the sort of thing that's happening. A lot of people, this is not top of mind for a lot of people, but it's very real. I actually liken it to that there's bonfires everywhere. They're just invisible and you don't know about them until you step in them and you're on fire yourself. So, why don't we hear about cyber attacks? Why don't we hear about ransomware? Why isn't everybody talking about this all the time? Why don't we hear about it on the news? Is it because it's not newsworthy? No, absolutely not. It's because it's extremely newsworthy and it's extremely embarrassing to admit. It is horrible public relations. I mean, could you imagine if your company got ransomed and what you would have to tell your clients that their data and all of the financial information and exchanges that they've shared with you is potentially at risk? And then, of course, legal ramifications. So, many incidents go unreported. So I have a video.
Hackers are everywhere. From Ashley Madison to JP Morgan, from Jennifer Lawrence to the federal government. Our biggest celebrities, corporations, and institutions have all been the targets of devastating cyber attacks. I wanted to see how bad a hack can get. So I invited a few of the world's best hackers to try to hack me and show me where my vulnerabilities are. And now I'm going to meet them in Las Vegas at DEF CON, the biggest hacker convention of the year, and see what they found. This might not have been the best idea. DEF CON is the biggest hacker convention of the year. It's a place where thousands of hackers come to hear talks, to demonstrate their newest hacks. It's actually a place that's so dangerous to be on the internet that they tell you to turn off the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth on your phone. And they tell you not to use the ATMs too, because those could be hacked as well. This is the DEF CON ballroom. This is sort of the main room where things are happening, and it's pretty wild. I think this is Car Hacking Village. This car is locked. Can you get me in?
I'll unlock it for you. Should be good.
Hacking is no longer like this fringe activity, and if you are at DEF CON, there's a good chance that you're here because you want to learn what could happen to you or your company.
Anyone here first time in the SCCTF? Holy crap.
I invited Chris to hack me with his team, but they're going to hack me using social engineering, which is essentially hacking without any code. They just use a phone and an internet connection.
We help people with human security issues by testing vulnerabilities for like a network test, but it's for the people network. We test those vulnerabilities, see where the holes are, and then help people learn so they can patch them.
Can we try some of this? Can we try some?
Yeah.
See if it works?
Yeah, we probably could have our star visher here make some phone calls as your
Let's do
girlfriend.
it.
Sure. Do you want to do a sample phishing call?
What's phishing?
Phishing is voice solicitation, and basically what you do is you use the phone to extract information or data points that can be used in a later attack.
Let's do it. Who are you gonna call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider
Okay.
and see if I can get them to give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna spoof from your number, so it's gonna look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. my husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry. I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for usage information and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30 seconds,
Gmail.com?
Jessica gets my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message? Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Shh. Oh, I'm not on there either? So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account. Okay, my
Jessica uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry. So there's no password on my account right now? Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my password.
Thank you so much for your help today.
So she just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her fed after this. All right, thank you.
Holy shit. So they just gave you access to my entire cell phone account.
You're gonna have to go on and change your password now because it's Jess, my name.
And all it took was a crying baby and a phone call. I really thought that my cell phone company would protect me. I mean, like, this is the most basic stuff, and they're not doing it. And if they're not doing it, you know all these other businesses aren't doing it either. Anyone with a phone and an internet connection can do social engineering. But I was curious, what can a hacker with serious coding skills do?
Well, DEF CON is the world's biggest hacking convention. It's hacking everything, hacking social, hacking hardware, hacking software, hacking various systems.
I asked Dan Tentler, a well-known security researcher, to turn all of his firepower on me.
I did get into quite a number of things that I found.
So what were the first things you did? How did you start hacking me?
I quickly found your Squarespace blog and had an idea. Basically what I did was created a bogus Squarespace site and sent an email to you, a phish asking you to go to this website, run this certificate installer.
And I did it, because I'm an idiot.
So once you ran that, it gave me access to your computer, and I created several fake pop-ups that looked like system pop-ups that would ask you for your credentials.
You didn't even have to have my passwords.
No, you gave them to me.
I gave them to you.
Yeah. So I stole your 1Password keychain.
And 1Password is where I store all my other passwords. So effectively
And your social security number and your Amex stuff and all your stock trading and bank information. I can send email to everyone in this room as you. I am you right now if I wanted to be. If my evilness is working correctly, it should actually be taking pictures of your desktop and pictures through your webcam every 2 minutes. And I have been watching you for about 2 days now. In coffee shops, at your mom's house, on a plane. Here's your editing stuff. There's you like.
Oh my God, so this is literally
every 2 minutes.
Through my webcam.
Yeah, through this guy.
How badly could you have messed up my life?
I could have made you homeless. I could have made you homeless and penniless.
How? How would you make me homeless?
Like, I have control of your digital life in its entirety. I have all your credentials. I have all your access to all your financial information, all your work information, all your personal information. I can pay people with your bank account or your Amex account. I am you. I can fully impersonate. Like, the only thing I couldn't doctor would be like your fingerprints.
This is like as bad as it gets.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's bad.
So it turns out that Dan Tentler is very good at his job. I mean, he hacked the hell out of me. He got everything. Well, I mean, frankly, I want to take my computer and throw it into the deepest part of the ocean, and I want to become a hermit, and I want to never touch a piece of technology again, because holy shit, that was everything. That was the keys to my entire life, and he just pulled them out of his pocket.
Anybody else sweating?
How is that convention possible? How is that legal to have a hacking convention?
It is. It's in Las Vegas.
Anything can happen in Las Vegas. You don't tell anybody.
I guess.
But you know, I honestly don't know the legal ramifications. I'm too nervous to attend.
Wow.
And I work for a cybersecurity company. So, yeah.
Wow. So I'm not seeing any meeting chats. Am I missing something?
No, I don't think so. I think we're all just engaged in awe
Like,
of.
amazing. I hadn't seen that
Yeah.
whole thing yesterday at our practice. Now I'm just threw away my city cell phone and my private cell phone. Not really.
So, can you see the PowerPoint?
No.
It's a white screen, but
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So the challenges with cybersecurity, if I may continue,
Yes.
is that, you know, people don't believe it'll happen to them. It's just the big guys that get targeted. They're too small, or they think the firewall or antivirus or backup and recovery solution they have is enough. Backup data recovery solution is enough, like Dropbox, which has been busted. Don't believe their data is important to hackers. Well, it may not be their data. Hackers just might be interested in their money, you know. Or they believe their IT team has them covered, which we hear a lot. We've got it, we're good. And then once we go in and we do a vulnerability assessment, oh my God, it's scary. So, you know, it's not that IT teams are bad, they're just not specialized in cybersecurity. And most IT teams are just trying to run the company. They're trying to provide the help for the employees and whatnot and keep things going. So we essentially have combined, you know, our suggestions into 15 ways to protect your organization from cyber attack. And going through each one of them, I won't do that, but kind of it's a check the box approach to it, from a top-down perspective, a 30,000-foot overview, and try to focus on security awareness, which we're doing today, password protection as well, which is very important. Multi-factor authentication. I mean, these are just some basic things that folks should be doing for themselves and for their companies. Updated firewall licenses, data encryption, assuring that they have backup. But where most companies should always start is to have a full security or vulnerability assessment done. And with that, they can see where the holes are and how to patch them. And that's often the process when it comes to compliance as well, is that vulnerability assessment is done for compliance need, the results are taken, and then what needs to be done is measured out sort of as a Gantt chart on what the priorities are and when they will be completed. So that's just part of the documentation in most technical compliance situations. So as we started, we're going to finish with the same message. Prevention is not enough. Organizations must have mitigation. Prevention is having good cyber situational awareness, knowing where you are, having SOC monitoring, which stands for Security Operations Center monitoring, having protection that is actually in the midst of your email, so that information going in and out of your email box is known from the actual source. It's confirmed that's from the actual source. Security awareness training, which what we're doing now. And then there's a holistic approach to it. Mitigation is ransom rollback capability and ransomware guarantee. So finding that capability, and then, having a high-end help desk and operations staff available to you, and then having pretty severe backup recovery. So these are all things that are recommended as far as mitigation. So what is the best cybersecurity? The best cybersecurity is a cybersecurity that once it's implemented, only reports show that there's been attacks and nothing happens. So you folks have any questions?
I'm looking in the chat to see if there's anything there. I don't see anything.
Yeah. I have a question. You mentioned the emails and the importance of having a system that kind of tracks emails coming in and going out and making sure that we know where they're coming from. What do most people have that capability in their email system now, or what does it take to have that implemented in your emails?
So it's a service that, so there's different types of settings that are done within your administrative email, and DNS protection and DMARC security are the two forms that can be implemented. So those are really, IT administrative level tasks that are done.
So from a personal standpoint, I guess there's not really probably anything, because most of us, we use Gmail or whatever.
Yeah, it's fairly deep, and I don't even know personally if Gmail has that specific capability for individual accounts.
So that's really more of an organizational function, probably.
Organizational function.
I mean, how does an individual then protect themselves if they're not even a company, or if they're just a small sole proprietorship?
So it's knowledge and training. So one thing, when you get an email from anybody, make sure that who sent it to you is a real person. And if it's like from Microsoft, Microsoft has a specific email address, Microsoft.com. It's not Microsoft.com. Microsoft.com. It's not, Microsoft.helpdesk.yourcomputer.com. So that email address is very specific to Microsoft, and that's with any organization.
Well, but couldn't somebody hack into, let's say, Microsoft and start using their email address?
Yeah, email spoofing is possible. Microsoft has fairly good security. So it probably, a specific spoof, though it's not impossible, is highly unlikely from Microsoft with their exact Microsoft.com extension with their email.
Got it.
And a lot of, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the phishing to protect yourself individually from phishing attacks is understanding the content of the email. If it's an unexpected email, if they're asking for something that sounds weird, or why would they be asking for this?
Right.
There's a good chance that is not a legit email.
If it's, a prince from Nigeria or a princess from Luxembourg that needs your money, it's probably not real. And I'm being facetious to a point, but there's a there's a logic trail to follow with most of these. If your second cousin is asking you for $100 now, and you haven't spoken with your second cousin for 10 years, it's probably not your second cousin. And again, that's kind of a way out there analogy, but with every email that you get, if it's advertising, and we send advertisements out, but check the email address and check the website. And if there's a person that's part of that email and there's an activity that may need to be performed, give that person a call. Check that person with somebody else. I mean, especially if it's concerning the transfer of money. The one solution that we offered one particular client was, did you call that person that's asking for money to confirm that they want the money? No, they didn't. They just sent it. So, and that's different. I mean, that's a social engineering attack, not a specific ransomware attack. The ransomware attack is, most of that is phishing. Most of that is an email that comes up that says, change your password now, or your banking information has some kind of problem. Please click here for clarification. That's the sort of email where people go, oh my God, click. And maybe you guys, I know I have gotten a Social Security call where something bad's happened with my Social Security account. Please call this number. Yeah, all right. But again, it takes some discernment, if you will, to know that isn't a real call. Someone who has a more or less isolated life that lives off of Social Security may respond to that and end up losing because they are naive. And I would love to see naivete continue to exist, but only with small children. So,
so let's say you get an email. Am I interrupting the thought?
No.
So let's say you get an email, whether it's personal or business or whatever, on your whatever system you're working from, and you open the email because you want to see what the email says, but there's an attachment, and it's the attachment that's dangerous, right? Or not?
Yes, it's the attachment. So if you open an email in a browser, now there's solutions that are sandbox solutions where all of your email as it's brought in is put in a sandbox, more or less, and looked at. It's examined by code, by AI. And whatever attachments there are reviewed by code to make sure there's no malicious code within it.
Okay.
And then, but then that's, that's an expensive solution. That is a high dollar solution. Relatively, especially compared to free. So, but there's solutions for that. But any attachment you get in an email, if it's from a known source, and that individual originated that attachment. So if you're, since I've been introduced to both Corey and you, Bruce, that let's say, for example, you send a spreadsheet to Corey, here are the people on this particular call, and Corey sees that and knows that it's coming from you and it's come from your system, your work system, which is secure, then it's okay to open that. It's not a problem. Because you've got that understanding of who it belonged to and what that chain is. But if you received a spreadsheet from New York from someone you've never heard of, but it seems to be something that you might need, then you probably shouldn't open that without some additional investigation.
Right.
I would say you shouldn't, not probably, you shouldn't.
You don't open it. Right.
Yeah, don't open that without additional investigation.
And it's not just attachments, it's links too, right?
It's
links and attachments both. Now the links are, both are nefarious. The links can execute bad stuff instantaneously, but so can attachment as well. So the links can take you down to, they both can though, but a link can take you into a real rabbit hole as well, and not a nice one.
Okay.
So the education is knowing and not doing it. The problem is that 2 days ago I clicked on something, and I'm pretty well versed in this, and what I clicked on could very well have been ransomware. It was just, I was doing a lot of work, and it appeared to be something very much like what I was working on, and I clicked on it, and as soon as I clicked on it, I was like, uh-oh. But and the good news is that it wasn't malware, it was not an attack. It just gave me a start, but it could have been. But having additional protection beyond that is really the type of service that we perform, and hardening the system. Security Operations Center is, as mentioned, that sort of thing. So if there is an attack or a data breach, that particular location of breach is quarantined, and if it's ransomware, it's actually rolled back. That's the level of service that we provide.
Well, so Dave, you
sorry. Corey, I'm sorry.
Okay, I was just going to ask, so you showed us the list of the 15 things that can be done to protect yourself, and you mentioned that it starts really with a review of the security status for any organization. I would imagine for most of our small businesses, when you think about this element of the cost of doing business, that most of us think this is a big expense, that this is very expensive, and there's probably a lot of second guessing about is it worth that expense versus the risk, and even if they feel like they want to protect themselves, it's just too cost prohibitive, and they don't even start down the path to even have the review done. Can you offer any kind of a sense of like what would a review cost a small business to do for their system, and if they wanted to go beyond that and install some sort of a process to protect themselves? I know there's a wide range of varieties of circumstances that could contribute to that, but can you offer any sense of a ballpark figure of what it would take, what kind of an investment that would look like?
Well, I can offer a very, how should I say, very broad scope in that, and it obviously is per business, per the type of business. The way we function is based off of endpoints. So how many different types of devices are linked to the network, and what is the server base, and what is the cloud base, and what are the applications? So for an assessment, I mean, can you give me a range of scale for a small business? What sort of scale of a small business are you talking about?
Let's say an insurance office.
How many people?
Maybe 5 or 6. I'm just making it up. I don't know, Corey. Do you know any businesses like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to speak for anybody here in our community, but just thinking of some of the examples. Let's say it's a small retail store that sells clothing, and they've got 7 or 8 employees. They've got 2 or 3 office computers, and everyone's got a cell phone that occasionally maybe they get into the system, or maybe it's just the managers, maybe what would a scenario like that be?
So something really small, and if it's like a retail centric organization where they're not using a lot of data and where data is not the main focus of their business, an overview is in the hundreds to, low single, 5-digit thousands, like four-digit thousands. So, pardon me. So, to do a complete assessment, and the service that we can provide is depending on how, we offer different platforms of service. So a basic service is tens of dollars per endpoint. With the full compliance suite, it's definitely over $100 per endpoint. So it depends on what the organization is, and then as more as you get a greater volume, the cost per endpoint continues to go down. So we can provide an extensive suite of protection for a small company for probably as much as a car payment per month, something like that.
And that's an ongoing service.
Yeah, it's an ongoing thing, month to month.
Okay, thank you. I think that helps a lot. Even just knowing, what the service review, just as it could be anywhere from a few $100 to maybe $1,000 or $1,500 or something, depending on the size of the business. That's a start. And
we're open. I mean, we have a broad range of clients. We have one client that is a single MD, so that's one of our clients. And then, we have other clients that are, they have many hundreds of employees. So really, we have that whole spectrum. Mostly where we work are in I'd say the smaller business of like 20 to 100 employees. That's where a lot of the business is for us, just because of the nature of the business that is done. There's sort of a scale of production that they have to achieve, and anything less, they can't really do it. And also, it's just a matter of if they have many hundreds, like 1,000 employees or more, they typically are paying a CIO and a security a CISO, CSIO, to do that. I mean, they have a full-time employee that's focused on that. Plus, they have other technicians that are directed to help with that internally. So at the larger scale, we provide a full service with the virtual CIO for the approximate cost of a CIO. So we provide all the tools and protection and security operations center and all of that, plus a virtual CIO, which is a CIO here and it's Wayne Waldron, the owner of the company, to work with that client and provide all of the expertise that he has for that client specifically. And then we provide all the security and we can provide yes.
Okay, thanks. So sorry, Bruce, to cut you off again. We've only got a few minutes left, and Bruce and I have been dominating the questions. I apologize for that. For those that are on the line, does anyone else want to have a question that has come up that you'd like to ask before we finish?
You've done a good job of reading my mind, Corey, and asking the questions that I was thinking. So thank you.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Anybody else? I don't see any chats.
No chat. So Bruce, it looks like you get the last question.
I'm not sure I have a last question, except.
Oh, I thought I kept cutting you off.
No. I just wanted to see if anybody else had questions, because I know we were asking the questions, but I figured there might be some others who also would like to say some things, and so I'm just curious, though, maybe asking the audience, does anybody want to hear more in-depth presentations on cyber threats? And how to deal with them?
Well, I think I'm not the audience necessarily, but I'll speak on behalf of that. For those that do, and obviously we've got a small audience here, and they've got various roles in their business and in the community. But know that in the small business and entrepreneurial education series that we're starting with the city that Bruce mentioned at the beginning of the call, that we're starting in July, once a month through next June. Our intention is to have Dave conduct one of those sessions. It'll probably be maybe one of the 2021 when we get into the new year. We've got the first 4 or 5 planned out, but so if you've got other employees, if you know of other organizations, you've got family or friends that are in the business that where this could be an issue, or it's something that they are in charge of for their company, feel free to make sure that they reach out and we can get them connected to make sure that they catch that particular session. I don't know, I can't remember if Bruce mentioned this or not, but of the 12 sessions that we'll do, you don't have to sign up for all of them. You can sign up for one or just a few that pertain to you and your interests. And so it's okay if that's the only one you catch. But yeah, thanks, Bruce, for bringing that up. This is a fascinating topic, and it's one, unfortunately, that nobody wants to think about. But once you get impacted by it, oh my gosh, your life is turned upside down. And, it's the last thing we need now, another upside down turning event.
And the whole purpose, I'm sorry, Clint. I was going to say the whole purpose of these weekly calls is been pretty much around COVID, obviously, and responding to COVID and recovery, because we're now into the reopening process. And really what we're concerned about is that we've had this terrible crisis that's affected everyone. And, cyber issues may seem like far-fetched, and they're it's like the Cascadia earthquake. I mean, when is that going to happen? Are you going to think about that every minute? No, I don't. Maybe I should. But this is a real serious threat, and it just seemed to us that the business community would really benefit a lot here in Sherwood from understanding the threat and trying to be thinking about it and trying to be preventative in essence. And that's why we want to do this, even though it didn't appear. And we've done PPP, we've done IDLE, we've done OHA, and we figured this is something that we wanted to get at least an initial discussion on, and then hold a more in-depth discussion on it, probably early 2021 at one of these small business training programs that the chamber and the city are doing. So that's why we presented this, and we hope you'll pass the word out that we are doing these sessions starting July 16th and each month after that for a year.
And if I may, if you folks have any questions, I certainly offer free initial consultation. And my goal, the whole reason I do this is because I am somewhat of a patriot, honestly, and I've literally traveled the world. I've seen where our information has been stolen, in defense mainly, where the stealth technology has literally been ripped off in China and other things like that. I have seen that, and it really makes me mad. So what and because I know how hard it is for people to come up with fresh ideas and turn them into a business. I know how hard it is for small businesses to function. So, I've left my information up. Please call me if you have any questions. We don't do anything and just charge you. We always talk first and get an understanding of what your needs really are, and if it is something that you want us to do and move forward. But I really want our people as a nation, everyone, an American who is American, to be protected. And not just from a civil standpoint, I want us as all good citizens to be protected. So that's my driving force. And I'm open to talk, to offer anything that I might be able to help you folks.
Thank you very much, all. Thanks, Dave. Thanks,
Yeah,
Corey.
thanks, Dave. And with that, let's go ahead. We'll conclude the call for this week. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, and we'll hope to see you next week.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.